Zat back here in the house in the PFN, paddle and fin house. Hey, Dustin Nichols with Chasing the Tide. We're back at you after a hiatus there. We had some crazy work schedules going on, and we're just now kind of starting to wrap that up and move back into time on the water mode. I've been lacking that. So I think I've had 2 days on the water in the last 6 weeks. So yeah, it's been rough. my gills are drying up. So yeah, my fishing therapy is not there at this time. So yeah, I'm getting kind of cranky. So no, we got a good show tonight. We're going to bring a guy from Northeast Florida, from the Dirty Duval. We're going to bring on a solid trout angler from over there. Loves chasing those big fish just like I do. So we're going to go ahead and bring Ron in. We got Ron Lendvay in the house tonight. What's going on, man? How's it going?
Hey, Dustin, I am great and just excited to be able to be here with you. Like I was mentioning, I've listened to your podcast for a couple of years and just honored to have an opportunity to come on here and speak. And there's nothing I like doing more than talking fishing. So
Oh yeah, I
happy to be
know.
here.
We could go all probably go all evening, but like we were talking before the show, we're like, man, we're going to get off this and we're going straight to bed. It's like it's been a rough couple, month, a little over a month or so for me. I know it's the work schedule here is hectic. I'm used to working, man. I'm used to only working 14 days out of 28 days. So I'll get a big long break and fish after night shifts, and I'm usually on the water 2-3 times a week. So it's a big change. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. I'm stuck being a weekend warrior typically. So, I've got to fight the water wars with the boats and everybody else
Right.
that's out there on the water on the weekend. So
Well, cool, man. Well, I'm stoked to have you on. First time offender in the house tonight. Yeah, we got Ron here, and give everybody a little, tell everybody where you're from, and give them a little backstory of, you're growing up fishing, and then what led you into that plastic boat.
yeah, absolutely. So I live in Jacksonville, Florida, as you mentioned right now, and I've been here since my high school years. But grew up in Northeast Ohio, just outside of Cleveland, originally, and was fortunate enough to get exposed to fishing as a kid. I had a grandfather that would take me kind of jetty fishing in Lake Erie, and there actually were live fish back then, contrary to popular belief. The water system up there has been challenged over the years, and then my family camped, and I would every time we would camp somewhere, I would fish in whatever ponds I could find, and I was pretty unsophisticated with it growing up. A lot of bobbers and worms and things like that, but I just loved being outdoors and experiencing nature and being a part of it. Moved to Florida in the middle of high school and never really lost that love of fishing. But the one thing I found very different in at least the Jacksonville region, Ohio, I could walk up to any body of water and fish, walk along it all I wanted to. Here in Jacksonville, it is mud and marsh, and you go try to walk up to a body of water here, unless you're at a ramp or a dock somewhere, you're going to sink thigh deep. That's just how the environment is here.
Oh,
So I
fluff
struggled
mud.
for I struggled for years trying to figure out how to fish this area without some kind of watercraft, and tried some surf fishing, and surf is always crowded, people on the beach, walking in front of your lines, and that wasn't working. But at work, I had some friends that had boats, and they were experienced saltwater anglers, and it took advantage of a couple opportunities to get out with them, and it really opened my eyes to the type of fishing that was available. And I was like, man, if I could just find a way to get out on the water myself. Um, and kayaks were just starting to become popular. We're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of got the bug. There was a forum here. I don't know if you'd ever heard of it back in the day, Dustin, called Jack's Kayak Fishing, back when
Mm-hmm.
forums were things. And they actually sponsored the Jack's Kayak Fishing Classic, which was
That was the one, the
once the largest
largest. Yep. Yeah.
anywhere in the country. We had 500 anglers. So I got involved with that. Mike Hogan started that, good guy. I helped him setting up for some tournaments and things like that, and met some anglers on there. Bought my first kayak used from the forum there in the classified section, and got some good advice. And it really kind of accelerated my learning curve into the saltwater environment between my buddies with the boats at work and that forum. And once I got the kayak and had the freedom to go whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted, that was all I really needed to really catch that saltwater bug.
Oh yeah, it's very easy to catch too.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. The mud down there can be insane, just like in coastal Georgia where I grew up. It's thigh to chest deep. In certain areas. And you just chasing that trying to find the right launch places and things could be challenging too, to me as well. I was thinking about to some of the stuff I remember launching at when I was a kid. A lot of places had floating docks, and it had a lift that would pick your boat up and lift it and set it into the water, on a pulley system, so it's definitely some different than what when I showed up to Texas and I saw people wade fishing everywhere. I was like, oh, you can actually walk in here and fish. And that's what started me back on trout fever in Texas was, fishing before I surfed or being a surfer anyways. We fished when there wasn't surf, when there's no waves, you would fish or skateboard. And that was the whole deal with that, was just getting that kayak and branching out and having that range.
Absolutely. When you're used to just walking and you get in a kayak and you can cover miles in a day, it's just the whole world opens up to you.
It definitely does. Yeah. And then back then, we were starting out, we had all the, the Jackson Kraken, the Wilderness, the Radar 150s or Tarpon 160s or whatever they are.
Yep.
Long, super long, just real skinny gliding kayaks that you got them up to speed. You could glide them and they just paddled well. Over the years, it's kind of swayed to the wider, more stable platforms, especially on the bass side of things. The guys are, chasing the bass tournaments and fishing the larger freshwater lakes or spot lock on them. The motors and everything's kind of progressed that way. And I'm kind of hoping, some of the other saltwater trails start getting with that, because a lot of ours still don't allow motors. There's quite a few now, but there's still a few hang-ons that are like, trying to hold off on the motor side of things. And it's
most of the ones in this region still won't allow any kind of a motor. It's got to be human powered, whether it's pedal or paddle.
With the current and the tidal swings you have there, and wanting to get the people away from, to spread them out a bit more, it's actually a plus to have. In my opinion, I like being able to get a little further away from the crowds, and I'm the first to say, if I can get away from everybody, I'm gone. I'm making some runs if I can with an extra battery.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's pros and cons to both sides of it. There's some loyalists still out there that just like the paddle only, and back when the pedal drives came out, they were still, pushed back when that allowed pedal drives in the tournaments, and then now it's the motor side kind of coming on board. A couple other companies out there pushing product as well, and it's become a kind of a norm for most of the tournaments across the coastal side of things. Now I'm hoping some more will jump on, because it's definitely a growing trend for sure. So you just fished a tournament over there. What was that last one you just did over there in Jacksonville?
I did. Actually, I did a couple. I did a live tournament here and an online tournament.
Okay.
Both. So it's kind of neat to be able to, do them both at the same time. But
yes,
the Jacksonville Premier Trout Tournament
right.
has a boat division and a kayak division, and outstanding tournament. Craig Van Brocklin runs that and does a great job with it. And I fished obviously in the kayak division, and had a bunch of friends that did really well in the tournament. It wasn't my year. I finished 10th, I think. But it was one of those days. Talk about tournament day. I caught a 20 1/4 inch trout on my third cast of the morning after we were allowed to put lines in, and I never could upgrade it for the rest of the day. I caught that right off the bat, caught a mid-slot red on top water right after that, and then it was tough. I caught a bunch of fish, but I never could upgrade that trout.
And that's how days it just goes. You get in your mind and you're like, man, I've been fishing. I know I'm on some fish. I'm here. And then what? Weather curveball. Something happens and you break a fish off and you get upset. So in preparation for an event and mindset, the mental aspect plays a pretty big role. So after a couple hours of not upgrading a fish, you're already kind of doubting yourself. Do you ever get into that on the water and kind of get that self-talk in your head where it's like, man, I need to catch fish. Man, I need to catch fish. Man, I need to catch fish.
It is discouraging if you go a long period of time without upgrading, but I always prepare myself ahead of time. I really enjoy tournaments. I don't put a ton of pressure on myself. I just kind of enjoy them for the experience, but I put a lot of mental preparation into it, and I know I'm going to fish a full day. It used to be when I started doing tournaments, I would, if it didn't work out by lunchtime, I might go ahead and head to the captain's meeting and see everybody where they're fishing and all that. But I've gotten to the point where I like to fish till the end of end of regulation
Right.
time. And the neat thing about the tournament this year is they use Tourney X
Yes.
as a partner this year, so you were able to fish right up until the weigh-in ended, which was
Yep.
at 4 o'clock. And I did. I fished up until 4, and I ended up catching more slot reds up until the last minute, but I never could upgrade that trout. But
Yeah, and
it gave
that's
me the
cool for
opportunity to stay out there.
it's cool for the CPR aspect of it. That's catch, photo, release. I know everybody's pretty well versed in that in the kayak scene, but it's kind of catching on the boat sides as well. Here, a couple of the tournaments have used the Tourney X and Fishing Chaos, and the CPR. You catch you photo them on the measuring board with the proper identifier or token of the day, and then you let them go. The Saltwater Legends series that Chad Petterick puts on a big trout tournament here in Texas, they're actually
Mm-hmm.
going a step further, and they're using a token of the day, and then you record a video with your scale zeroed out. You measure your trout, you weigh it, the weight locks in, and you film yourself releasing the trout, and then you submit your videos to him. You bring redfish to the scale live for your one redfish, but it's a 3 trout stringer, 1 redfish a day. It's a 2-day tournament, and it's a boat tournament, but they definitely taking some strides where they're not beating up some trout trying to run 90 miles at 90 miles an hour, running back in the waves and beating the fish up in the live well, and then having a lot of fish fatigue.
Yeah, and that's what
So
I love about the catch, photo, release format of most of these kayak
fatalities are
tournaments that we do.
yeah.
They're so conservation friendly, and
Yes.
the longer you fish, the more you appreciate those special moments with those special fish. So the other tournament that I fished, which ended kind of that same weekend, C.A. Richardson had a tournament on Fishing Chaos
Right, they
online.
had a tournament online. I saw
Yeah,
that one come up, and I was like, man, I'm in a turnaround. I didn't get a chance to get into that one. It looked like it was a pretty battled event. They were battling
it,
it
it
out.
was it was fun. I did a little better in that one. I finished tied for second with 32-inch redfish in that one for the month. Had a 26.5-inch trout. And then the challenge was, it's a slam tournament, and
Hmm.
snook was the third fish. We don't have snook up here in Jacksonville, so I only had a half a day to leave town on a Saturday to figure out where to go. And I went down towards the Ormond Beach area and
Yes.
pulled a respectable 25-inch snook. It's nothing that's a monster or anything, but ended up in second overall for the slam for the tournament.
Oh,
So
there you go.
I was happy with that. I wish I could have done better in the trout tournament, but I was happy with the results in
Yeah,
that one.
that's cool. We just got lucky and got into some snook. We were down for a Jackson Fun Tour in the Tampa St. Pete area at a couple dealers down there back in March. Um, but we had one of those fronts come through that just blew the water out everywhere. We went to one place we had our eyes on, had some intel, and I'm telling you, the water was 200 yards away from where you would normally launch. It was like 4 foot
Wow.
low. It like blew it out. So we had been traveling back and forth to these dealers, and we went over some backwater rivers, and we found a ramp there, and we stumbled onto the Anclote, the boat club. It's the number one dive bar in Florida. That's where the launch was by. It wasn't open at the time we got there, but we did end up having some beers and some good times there at the boat club after we got off the water. But we went in that place blind, and we had a camera crew with us too, and just got lucky and found some boat houses and docks and started skipping under the docks as the water pushed back in and started catching 20-inch snook, 21-inch snook. Nothing giant, but I lost a couple good ones. We had some juvenile tarpon, come up and follow our flukes or our baits and not quite commit, but you saw them, so you got really excited. And then we lost a couple decent snook, pretty good ones, probably pushing, upper 20s. But overall, for not knowing anything about the area, I was pretty happy to go and kind of figure something out because it
And that's
was
one of the things I've kind of really
crazy.
enjoyed these last couple of years is going to new areas, just like you mentioned. It's
Yeah,
very satisfying to be able to go to a new area and be able to find fish. So credit to you
right.
for that. It doesn't always work
It
out, but I'm
doesn't
glad you
always
guys were
work
able to
out.
pull it off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got lucky on that one. And you were talking about we're talking about CPR and the catch, photo, release, and what everybody's going in great links to do. Your shirt, that's a great program.
But
Uh, yeah,
represent release over
represent
20.
release over
Absolutely.
20. Dave
Yeah.
Flatt's been a guest on the podcast as well, and very very supportive of what he does for the trout fishery, the flounder fishery, the sheep's head, everything. Yeah, he's got a great program with that. Great support from a lot of companies involved with him. And I'm like-minded. I'm on the conservation side myself, and I want those big trophy class fish to be around, because I got the big trout fever too. I know, just like you, I said, I know you got it. So what's it mean to have a great fishery in your area? We don't have to name names, but there's some stuff right there on the eastern
Yeah,
seaboard of Florida. There's some great trout fisheries there. So what's it like to have that pretty close by?
it's outstanding. I fish. I'm in Northeast Florida. I fish everywhere from Nassau County, which is as far north as Florida gets before Georgia, down to Flagler County, with most of my time concentrated in Duval and St. John's. And I've caught gator-sized trout in all of those areas, other than maybe Flagler. Um, and I know they're there. I just haven't had the opportunity to catch one. But the more you fish locally and the more you get a chance to travel, the more you realize how special those really big trout are. Either the really fat 26 and a half, the 27s, the 28s. I've had a 29. I haven't broken 30 yet. I'm still working on that.
Me either. 29.75. If I'd have left the mouth
Yeah.
open, it'd have been 30. Yeah.
Yeah, but you learn to realize how special those fish
Yeah.
are, and that's why those conservation programs are so important. So it was so easy to get on board with Dave Fladd and release over 20 and watch that grow. It's just amazing what he's done with that. He and his company, and I couldn't be more proud of him. And I'm so happy to be able to support it and follow it.
Yeah, for sure. Him being in the business as well with eye strike fishing, which actually,
Absolutely,
is partnered with Z-Man, which great bait companies, great baits. I do have
without a doubt.
support from a great Texas plastic company, but I do use Z-Man stuff. That kicking crab has been legit. And the little Ned bugs and Ned crawls for
Oh man.
finicky wintertime redfish are just, yeah,
So
lights
it's funny
out.
that you mentioned that.
Super small stuff.
Yep, I love my big trout, but
Yeah.
especially in the wintertime and in kind of midsummer, I really love to go after my redfish. And the one technique I've been using the last couple of years, which is new to me, is the Ned rig. So the Z-Man stuff is just perfect because of that buoyancy. And man, those oyster mounds at low tide with a nice little Z-Man Ned rig,
Oh
I've just
yeah.
been tearing them up the last couple of years, and never. I didn't have the expectations. It exceeded my expectations.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. Just amazing, and it's so fun to just watch that line just take off and start moving, and you know what's about to happen. It's just
Yeah, you're
great.
like, oh, there it is. He's already there. Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah. So the trophy class fish, you're both of us were fortunate to live near waters that were able to chase those and be able to target those fish specifically at times. What's some of your favorite techniques, or maybe something you'd want to share with the listeners that they might not know for chasing these trout? What makes them? I mean, they're ferocious. They're opportunistic feeders. They're going to ambush stuff. I mean, what do you use to target them and to figure out? What's your mindset going into to target those big fish? And the
Yeah,
baits
my
you're going to present
mindset.
to them. Yeah.
Yeah, great question. My mindset typically is I want to be out on the spot I want to fish before first light. Even I want to be
Yeah.
out there when the sun comes up. Number one, it's almost a spiritual experience to be out there when that sun comes up. I just get
Definitely.
energized off that. I love it, and then I
Yeah.
start throwing top water. That's my favorite way to catch the big trout, and that's how I've caught probably most of mine. And I'll talk about the second method that I use.
Yeah.
But I try to read the water. If the water's choppy, I'm using a bigger, noisier top water, and if it's calm and there's not a whole lot going on, I try to downsize what I'm using and use something that's a little quieter and a little more subtle. And I'll throw top water, especially if there's cloud cover. I mean, I'll bring it out if there's cloud cover just about all day. Top water is just a proven producer for me. But I use probably a lot of the same ones a lot of guys do. Probably caught more on a Spook Junior than anything, but I love the Mirror Lure products. I love the Skitter Walk products. I'll use a little bit of everything. Once that sun gets up high and that top water bite dies, I am hooked on Mirror Lures, the 17 MR and the 27 MR if it's windy. Those two are right behind top water, produced the most big trout for me, other than the top waters. If I'm fishing deep water, a big paddle tail,
Yeah.
5 inch. But that's only if I'm fishing deeper water, somewhere that's got drop offs. And I
Yes.
usually concentrate on the shallower stuff.
Right. Shallow water. Yeah. There's times in winter I'll target some industrial areas or some river estuaries where the trout will push up in the deeper water. But most of the time I'm shallow water. I'm on the flats, the grass flats, off the deeper edges, and then down towards our cherry on the top down in Baffin when I can get down there in the wintertime. A lot of jerk baits that time of year on the cooler months, and then we all know in Texas you're throwing a corky fat boy. So
Yep.
Even on the shallow water, I like the floater. There's the Gringo, the all white one. Man, I had a hell of a winter with that bait this year. And then
I think the mirror lure is to Florida what that corky is to
yes,
Texas.
yes,
I think that's probably a fair comparison.
and then we have the double D's as well. They
Yep.
don't sink and suspend like a MR17 or MR27. You swim them down with your reel, and then you can twitch them and swim them, but they'll slowly float back up. And those have been deadly, burning it down to the grass flats and just killing it, and it kind of slowly sits there and it starts floating, and the reds just pop out of the grass and just bam! It's like, whoa, okay, he was there. And wake baits and chatter baits, and yeah, I got all kind of crazy stuff. I got some crazy looking dice I just got in the mail from OSP. They're like OSP dice. They're the bass. It's like Japan is like ahead of the curve on these crazy baits they have. And it's just like, man, I'm gonna get some of those and just try them out. I want to see if I can make a redfish eat them. And that's what I get. I always just like to see, can I make a redfish eat those? Like the topwater frogs on the flood tides when they're way back in the grass, and a lot of times they're they're swiping snails off of the grass stalks. Have you ever seen them do that over there? Because they'll do it. They'll come up on the snail, them little white snails on the stalks of the Spartina grass, and I throw a little bone-colored topwater frog in there, and they slurp it down.
Yeah, I've said I'm going to do that, and I haven't done it yet. So this year, when we get the flood tides, I definitely need to throw some frogs up in there.
It's pretty dang fun.
I can imagine.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I could talk trout techniques and redfish, whatever, all the stuff I use. I like to use everything. I mean, but like you say, you do have to read the water, read the conditions, read the bait in the area, the what's around. You definitely got to take a look at that and soak that all in. Definitely.
Yeah, I'll tell you something else I like to do. If I can get into those schooly trout where there's just a school of them, you're not really catching big ones, but you're, weeding through a bunch of them. I love to try the new tactics and techniques, the new lures that I haven't really spent a lot of time with.
Yes.
I know the fish are there. The question is, am I working it correctly?
Yeah.
And if the fish are there and they're eating, that's the best time to try out, at least for me, my new lures, my new tactics, and my new techniques.
For sure. Definitely. Totally agree with that. So, yeah, moving along, we're just kind of rolling through. I had a little outline here, try to stay organized on Chasing the Tide. We just wing it every now and then. I'll throw some crazy questions out every now and then. But we're going to talk about pressure on the fishery. How is that? Seems like there's more anglers than ever on the water now. And what, if any, differences in the fish's behavior have you seen from the extra pressure? Because the population's grown over the years. The population of fishermen have grown in water. People on the water have grown. Have you seen the behavior of the fish affected by that, or yeah?
Yeah, I have, and I think the pandemic really even accelerated it over this last couple of years. And although I know the boat companies are selling more boats than ever, I think even in the kayak market, we've probably even seen a bigger percentage of population explosion of people that are fishing in kayaks. And I think that the biggest difference is A, it does affect the fish because they feel that pressure. And then B, the spots where you've gone for years and, you never see anybody at, now all of a sudden you go out there and there's 2 or 3 guys sitting on top of it. And that's okay. It just gives you a reason to go try to find you another spot. But without a doubt, I've seen it, and I do think it affects the fish. I even know guys that don't like to fish on a Monday because they know that those fish have been beat up all weekend on a Saturday and a Sunday, and they feel like they need a day to recover, and they'll try to wait till a Tuesday or a Wednesday to fish to give those fish a chance to settle down. So it's absolutely a factor, especially here in Florida, because much like probably where you're at, it's a year-round fishery here. It's not like the fish get a break all winter here. They don't. There's fewer fishermen, but there's still plenty of us fishing for them all year round.
But if it's 28, 29 degrees and I'm launching in the morning and it's a light drizzle, I'm probably not going to see anybody else, but that's the days I like right there, boy. I'm throwing a big glide bait real slow, a corky real slow, just twitch. Oh, yeah. But I see like you were saying, you've been going to some spots here and there, and there's a lot of spots we can get that boats can't get to.
Oh,
But
love
man,
it.
I've got some skiffs now that've been coming up in some areas that I've been on for years and years and years, and don't ever see anybody in there. Some skiffs figured out how to get in there on the right tides, and and it's like, okay, cool, that's fine. But you know, you got to know what to do. You got to know how the fish set up. They're not normally on the grass edges. They're other places. There's some stuff that's tricky. There's some shoals and reefs you can run over coming back into that area. So you really got to know the area really
Yeah, and
well.
that's the beauty of the kayak. I told you I'm kind of stuck being a weekend warrior for
Yeah,
the most part. So I almost never launch at boat ramps. So I've got,
right.
roadside launches, cuts between the
Combat
trees,
launch.
and yeah, combat launching. And the good thing is you don't see as many boats in those
Right.
areas, and those spots can be golden, and that's typically what I hunt for when I go fishing.
Yeah, but me and my buddy Mike, we're a tournament team at times when there's team tournaments, and we've been in places and we're like on the fish, and there's a school, we're pushing, we're right on them, and then we're kind of backing off, like working some stuff, and then there's a little cut coming in these back lakes, and here comes this group of guys just whoop, 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 straight through the fish. Didn't even notice the fish were there. Like they didn't like. It's like I see a lot of that with the new anglers that might not be experienced, is they're not really paying attention to detail. So
Yeah,
some of the noobs out there, y'all observe your surroundings. I mean, I can't tell you how much that helps for the that little telltale little flick of the bait. You might not see that redfish tail behind it, but it popped up, especially along the grass and the edges of the oyster. Time on the water will trump everything. You can find me and find my truck very easily and know where I'm fishing, but you got to break down the conditions, the water clarity, the wind, the tidal movement, the lunar periods, the forage. There's a lot of stuff to break down. Like I can send you to a spot and say, "Oh yeah, I smacked him here yesterday," and then you go there the next day and not even get a bite.
yeah.
And then you readjust and you find out what those fish are doing, and that just comes from time on the water. And I can't
Yeah.
preach that enough.
Yeah, when you're new, you just don't know what you don't know,
Right, exactly.
until you kind of figure it out. That's why finding people that are experienced in it can really accelerate your learning curve if
Yeah,
you find somebody who's willing to share with you. And
yeah,
I've tried to give back because people did that for me when I
yes,
started.
yeah. I love helping people. There's a right way to do it. Just like I said, you explain everything and tell them about the area, why the fish are there, or what they're doing, where they're going to move, or if something else happens, throw a wrench in things. But hire a local guide that knows the area. It's worth it to spend the money to cut the learning curve, and a guide that's going to teach you with the right tools and teach you about conservation. That's a big plus there, because there are guides out there that are just burning through spots and just wanting to getting them stringer shots to get more customers. So there's always that can be a touchy subject here and there. So yeah, we just we've always I'll keep a few fish every now and then to eat, man. But then big girl, I'm letting them go. I'll keep some smaller slot trout, some slot reds here and there every now and then. I like to fish tacos and redfish on the half shell. I got a pretty good smoked redfish enchilada I do that is pretty dang tough to pass up every now and then. But man, it just through fishing, all of us that are like-minded on the conservation side. The kayak side of thing is where I really saw the camaraderie, especially at the events. And it's always like the last one I fished, I was just mentally whipped. We had like crazy northwest winds and like 5 inches of rain. The flats were even dirty water. I burned a chatterbait for 4 hours that morning with one thump, and finally found some clean water about a 2 mile run and caught my first fish about 11:30 on a wake bait, 27 and a half, a little over 7.5 pounds. And I was like, oh yes, this is it. If I can get one more like this, I'm in the money. I had 3 more follow it all the way to the boat in the same area. The water was super, it was gin clear in there. And then I broke another one off on some shell. And I had the opportunities, but it just whooped me, So I got back to the ramp, to the launch, and I said, I'm not even going to weigh in. It was my only day off, during this outage deal. And I said, it was about 2:40, and I was like, I'm going to just let this one go. I'm going to the house. Get home. And the weigh in, I would have had to go and go back across the ferry, waiting like an hour and a half line. I wouldn't have got home till like 9 o'clock at night. But I got home at 4:30 and hung out and, you know, ate dinner at home with the family and all that, you know. Still got to sleep at a decent hour. So, you know, I missed the camaraderie at the weigh-in, because there's always some good fish tales and some and some stories about who got stuck and had to drag their kayak across the marsh or something. So, yeah, and I was just gonna say that's meant a lot to me coming over on the kayak side of things, was just the friendship from everybody, and you know, bringing everybody together. Like, you know, we're on, you know, over 1,000 miles apart. We're on a podcast through the old crazy internet there, and talking about what we love to do. So it's pretty cool that we all come together, and you know, it's been a pretty cool experience. And I was going to see if has that affected you? Have you, how many friends have you met through kayak fishing that has been a pretty tight bond? You know.
Over the years, you know, dozens I've been fortunate enough to fish with. And, you know, right now you talked about the conservation minded and, you know, the guys that like to hunt for those big trout like you and I have discussed. And I'm just blessed to have some great fishermen over here that love to do that. I know you've interviewed Sandy Stark before for your show. You know, I've learned plenty from him. And Troy Rhodes is one of my fishing partners on a lot of the tournaments I do. Another great fisherman. Rich Winman fishes in this area a lot. He focuses on big trout and does really well. Zach Prince, Matt Chipperfield.
Captain,
yeah, just some great guys. And you know, I've got some newer guys coming along too that do a great job. I got a buddy named Dominic Panicia from work who I fish with, and he's got his own YouTube thing going now, and he's doing a great job with it, True Loving Fishing, and it's just so fun to watch him kind of build that out and use his drone and do some unique things. Just very cool.
Dang, that's pretty neat. Yeah, the friendship through fishing has been great. You know, it's definitely, you know, I've met a lot of super cool people over the years through that plastic boat, man. It's pretty dang neat. But
it really
you
is.
know, and you kind of hit on it too about the bonds of the, you know, the crazies like us that like to chase the big trout and get heartbroken a lot. I mean, there's days I'll fish for one thump, dude. And if it's the right one, then yeah, it paid off 27, 28. You know, if that's my only fish of the morning, I'm still happy. I'll be out there at midnight on a full moon on one area or the areas I know they're at, and I'll set up on one piece of shell, like a cutout in the reef, and if that fish is there with the right wind direction, there's going to be a fish there set up waiting on something, and I'll sit there and throw at it for an hour or two waiting for that bite. And if I got that gut feeling, and then it's like, man, it pays off pretty good bit here and there, you know. So it's like, man,
absolutely. You know, as my fishing has evolved, you know, when I first got started, I was all about the numbers. How many fish can I catch in a day? And that's fun. I still like a day with good numbers, but I'll trade, you know, a 20 fish day for that 1 or 2 special fish day anytime now. That's what it's all about, is finding that, you know, true trophy, that, you know, Jurassic Park style fish that's out there, and enjoying that experience.
Yeah, that dead calm to the hook set, to the utter chaos of that gill raking shake when they come up and trying to throw that bait, and their head is rattling and they're pissed off. That's what it is. They get so aggressive once they get, you know, over that 5 pound, 24 and a half, 25 inch mark.
Yeah, that thump when you're fishing subsurface, that thump. That's the drug right there.
That's that corky thump. It'll get your heart rate going. And that's how they hit that's how they hit them glide baits too. They about knocked the rod out your hand. I've actually had one. I was throwing one of the bigger pogies, Mike Herman from the Donkey Bay baits. He's out of Louisiana, makes some great glide baits and swim baits. But I was throwing this bigger pogie. It's like 2 3/4 ounces. It's not giant, but you have to have a little different action rod than my regular trout rods. I usually throw my like top water and stuff on. You got to be able to absorb those head shakes, and I usually throw it on straight fluorocarbon just to kind of help with it, you know. And I had one come up and just annihilate it, and I swear I had a bruise on my finger from where the trigger got pulled against my hand when he smacked it. Like my trigger grip on my reel seat put a bruise on my finger. And that fish was, I think, and it might have been one of the right ones.
Yeah, no doubt.
I had a couple this winter that were it just in my heart and in my what I saw, mouth and head and body wise, they were 30 plus, and it didn't happen. You know, biggest I caught this year was 29. You know, it's just sometimes the stars don't align on them big fish, man. That's why they're out there. They're pretty dang smart.
The year is young. There's plenty of time to get that 30 before the year's over.
This year, yeah. I'll be on it. I don't have any kind of outages until October of next year, which is a bad time of the year to have an outage, but that's the way it's going to fall, I think, next year. But I'm always excited for that when that weather cool down starts. I mean, there's still some great fishing right now. This full moon we got coming up with some fish spawning and just setting up right before it gets super hot. And then we got the croaker at the bait shop start showing up, and you got all the guys out there just throwing croaker for bait. And that's another thing. I mean, people are going to fish with what they're going to fish with, but that definitely lends to more gut hook fish and stuff like that. With the live bait, and it is what it is. But there's guys out there that fish with artificials, and they're teaching stuff the right way as well. Yep. And like we say, the conservation side of things is a big key. We had that big freeze 2 years ago, and we got that. We had a bag limit decrease in size slot for our trout on the mid coast, south and mid up to Matagorda. And it's 3 fish, 17 to 23, and that's all you can have. Before that, we had a 5 fish limit, 15 to 25, and then you can have 1 over 25 in your bag. And then we lost a lot of fish during that freeze, and we've seen it rebound. And the Laguna Madre is fishing really good right now down Corpus area down south, and it's a big proponent is that bag limit decrease and that management. And it's starting to open some eyes, And it's sad it took a freeze to see it, but there's a lot of people that have started to open their eyes to it, which is pretty cool,
Yeah, without a doubt.
It was like pulling teeth to try to get the people to do the release over 20 here for the longest time. So yeah, I'm glad to see it kind of coming along, man, for sure.
Yep.
Anything else you want to add? Let's do it. I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. I'm gonna try to just do a pick 5 off the top of my head.
Let's do it.
All right, come on. Bucks or Jags?
Jags, of course.
Hot dog or pizza?
Pizza.
Right on. Redfish or trout?
Depends on the time of the year. I don't know if I can answer that. All the above. How's that?
That's
all the above.
That's a tough one. Bicycle or skateboard?
Bicycle. I'm not coordinated enough for a skateboard.
I'm not coordinated enough. Daiwa or Shimano?
Yeah, that's an interesting talk. Most of my reels early in my fishing time were Shimanos, but I've really transitioned to the Daiwas over the last 4 or 5 years, and I couldn't be any happier. I love
We
them.
can talk about that a little bit. See, some of these pick 5 questions lead to a little extending the show a little bit.
Yeah.
So oh man, their mag sealed stuff is pretty cool, and the MQ series stuff. I just got a Procyon MQ. I've had the Procyon AL for a while, the 2000 series, and that's my go-to little spinner rods. But I'm fortunate enough to get a deal with them and work with them. The Coastal 150s were great. They're just a little bigger, because they came out with the 200 series that was pretty big back in the day. So, man, if they make a smaller version of this would be killer. And they came out with the 150, and it's got a 100 size spool, but it's still got that bigger frame. I was like, man, if they come out with something even smaller than this, I'm down. And then they finally came out with that 80, and that reel is a little beast, man. That the new the hyperdrive, that digigear they got in there, they're so smooth. Man, I've been a big fan of them. I threw Daiwas all in my youth. I had the Magforce back in the day. I threw Shimanos too, but I'd always had a Daiwa on a pistol grip lightning rod, in my teenage years bass fishing, and it was good to get back to Daiwa because I had thrown Luz for a while. The Luz custom light was definitely a solid reel for the longest time. I know a lot of people are still throwing those, but
Yeah, I throw spinners, and
Yeah.
really for a bargain mag sealed reel, those Fuegos are great. I
Yes.
mean, a little over $100, you just can't beat that. I've got some of the BGMQs.
Yes. Oh,
Those are to
those
me are
are killer.
fantastic. I've got one Saltus back bay is a 3000. That's the biggest one I have. That thing is bulletproof.
Is that the
And
one with the round? You got a round handle on that one, the little round knob on that one?
no, it does. That one has the T handle on
The
it.
T handle. Okay. I
Yep.
have a 3000 as well. That's pretty dang sick. I like it.
I got a Procreon too, like you mentioned, and what other? I've got another one that I'm forgetting. But just love that Daiwa line of saltwater ready products. It's been holding up for me. When you're in a kayak, it's a little different than being in a boat. I mean,
Yes.
your stuff's gonna get splashed, so you want
Oh,
something that's gonna hold up. And not that the Shimano stuff didn't for years; it was fine. I love the smooth action and drag that I'm getting out of these Daiwa reels right now.
yeah. Their spinning reels have definitely, in the last like 3 or 4 years, have definitely progressed, and they're on that level where they need to be. Like you said, that Saltus back bay, that thing's sick. I love that reel. And then the Procreon, the AL and the MQ on those, both of those are super light. They're no corrosion. I've still got one I've had for like, I've been fishing it straight for whenever it first came out. I've had it. I haven't even cleaned it.
Yeah,
I spray it down with Bow Shield or Corrosion X and wipe it down. Little Real Magic on the spool and roll with it. And that's how those 80s are.
yep,
The 150s I do pull apart and clean here and there. Um, anything you leave out, and you rinse and you got to dry it completely. And I try to open them every trip, but when you fish multiple days in a row, sometimes it's kind of hard. So
yeah.
I'll have a can of Real Magic in the car. As soon as I get off in the truck, as soon as I get off the water, I spray them down real quick before I throw them in the truck. At least they're
Smart.
getting that.
Yeah.
But yeah, real, maintenance. That's a big part of real maintenance, lure maintenance, changing your hook out, all that kind of good stuff. That's all. Man, we could talk another hour about just that prepping, and we'll have to have another. We'll have to have a revisit of part two coming up soon. We'll get you
Yeah,
back
I'll
on here
I'll
later
be one
on
of
for
your
sure.
repeat offenders if you want me again.
Oh yeah, no man, I had a good time having you on the show tonight, man. I'm gonna usually try to wrap it up in about 45 minutes or an hour, and I'm about wore out. this dang this work schedule's about to kill me. You get over 50, it's not easy anymore.
Yeah, I'm there with you. I'll be 55 this year. So that's the other good thing about the kayak, though. I love the fact, and I don't have the motorized ones. It
Yeah.
helps keep me young, keeps me active. I'm bending, I'm stooping, I'm lifting, I'm
Yes.
stretching. I'm not saying it's turning me into a triathlete by any stretch of the imagination, but it'll keep you healthy. I mean,
Oh, it
it
does. I drag
without
mine
a
all
doubt.
over, and I still paddle. I mean, I use my motor to get one spot to the other, but most of the time I'm paddle or pedaling.
Yeah.
um, especially in the back lakes in the shallow water when I'm standing up and just pushing around, push poling and stuff. That keeps you going, keeps you young, and I get on that skateboard here and there, roll around in them bowls and keep them legs moving.
Yeah, you got me beat there. I'm staying off the skateboard. I'm not going to try
Yeah.
to beat gravity. Gravity's undefeated.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sitting on some. I got a couple. I have a GT um, Pro Performer from I think it's like a '91 model, but I have a 1990 dyno comp that I'm about to get refinished. It's kind of beat up, but I'm gonna get it get it powder coated like a cement gray and do like the neon green stickers on it, and then rig it back up and actually ride it again. So I'm gonna get out there and dance around on the old freestyle bike again. That was always fun when I was a kid. So I kind of got a wild hair to start messing around on that again. Instead of the mountain bike, I'm getting the freestyle bike, a little 20-inch toy. But yeah,
Going
it was
back down
always
memory lane.
yeah, it's fun. It's always fun to roll back down that stuff, as long as I don't get like a handlebars shoved somewhere I don't want it to go. It probably wouldn't be too fun. Yeah, but yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, Ron. It's great chatting with you about those special fish that we both are dear to our hearts. Those big trout. There's nothing else like them things, man. It's an honor to be able to catch one, man.
Yeah, I
I,
feel the exact same way. It's
I
just a
still
special moment.
remember the where it hit, how it looked when it came out of the water. I can still visualize like most of my ones that are upper 20s. I can visualize the exact moment, kind of relive it in my thoughts. It's just, there's nothing else like it. I'm sure a lot of people can relate. So yeah, cheers to some big trout. Yes, sir. We're gonna
Absolutely.
wrap up the show with that. Any shout outs or anything you want to thank anybody, or any mentions or anything? There you go,
You know,
right there.
yeah, I just want to say, hey, thank you to you for having me on here. It's quite the honor to be on here. And as far as shout outs go, I mentioned a lot of my good fishing buddies. Hopefully they'll listen and they've heard their names out there. And then once again, my buddy Dominic Panicia with his True Love and Fishing on YouTube does a
Cool.
heck of a job on that with some really neat drone footage to show what he's up to. So just a shout out to him.
Right on, man. Appreciate that. Yeah, we thank everybody that listens to this show. Pal and Finn, we wouldn't be where we're at without all the listeners and everybody that watches our podcast. And I'm glad to be back, hopefully regularly after this one. Just had some free time this evening and wanted to get a show, so I got with Ron to get him on. And I'm glad I had you come on, man. This one flowed pretty good, and I like to have the guests on here that are like-minded, like to do the same thing, chase them big trout. So it's
Yep.
always fun to talk about that stuff there. And I'm gonna roll the closer. Thanks again, everybody, for hanging out on Chasing the Tide, and we'll catch y'all next time. Hang tight, Ron. I'm gonna roll this closer, and we'll finish it up.
Thanks.